Never assume the water under your own house belongs to you. In most of America, it doesn't. You can own the land, own the house, own everything on top of that ground, and still not have the legal right to dig down and take the water underneath it. And if you already have a well, there's a decent chance the local government can force you to shut it off and pay to connect to the city system instead, even if your well works perfectly fine. That sounds extreme, but it's real, it's documented, and it's happening right now in states across the country. So let's break down exactly how this works, why it exists, and what it actually means if you're one of the millions of people who either has a well or is thinking about digging one. Here's the number that surprises most people. More than 43 million Americans get their drinking water from private wells. That's about 15% of the entire country. The EPA puts the number of households at over 23 million. This isn't some tiny group of off-grid homesteaders in the middle of nowhere. This is a massive chunk of the population, especially in rural areas, spread across every region of the country. And here's the part that catches people off guard. The federal government does not regulate the safety of that water. The Safe Drinking Water Act, the law that controls what comes out of city taps, does not apply to private wells. If you have a well, testing it, treating it, maintaining it, all of that is on you. Nobody is checking your water unless you check it yourself. And most people don't test their water nearly as often as they should. Studies show only around 30% of well owners test their water at least once a year, even though health experts recommend annual testing for things like bacteria and nitrates. Almost half of well owners say they've never had their water professionally tested at all. A lot of the testing that does happen only occurs because a house is being sold and a buyer wants proof the water is safe. So there's a real gap here. Millions of people are drinking water that nobody outside their own household has ever checked. So you'd think, at the very least, that the government would just leave private wells alone since they're not even regulating the water quality anyway. But that's not what happens. Instead, what you get is a patchwork of permits, licenses, legal doctrines, and local ordinances that decide whether you're even allowed to dig in the first place, and in some cases, whether you're allowed to keep using a well you already have. Let's start with the basic problem. In almost every state, before you can drill a well, you need a permit. That part alone isn't shocking. Permits exist for a lot of construction projects. But in many states, you also have to hire a specific licensed well contractor. You can't just do it yourself, even on your own land. States like Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Kentucky, and Louisiana all require a licensed driller. Some states have you go through the county health department, and every county can run its own process with its own rules, its own paperwork, and its own timeline. So already, before you even get to the bigger issue, you're dealing with permission slips, licensing requirements, and a process that can vary wildly depending on which side of a county line you happen to live on. But that's just the surface. The real issue goes much deeper, and it has to do with a question most people have never even thought to ask. Who actually owns the water underneath your land? You'd assume the answer is simple. It's your land, so it's your water. But legally, that's not how it works in a lot of the country. There are several different legal doctrines that decide who has the right to that water, and depending on which state you're in, the answer changes completely. In some states, the rule is called absolute dominion. Under this one, if the water is under your land, you can pump as much of it as you want, with basically no limit, even if it drains your neighbor's well dry in the process. It's the closest thing to the simple answer most people assume is true everywhere, but it's actually only the rule in some states, not all of them. In states like California, there's something called the correlative rights doctrine. Under this system, if you and your neighbors are both sitting on top of the same underground water source, you don't get to take as much as you want. You're only allowed a reasonable share. The idea is that everyone above the same aquifer has to share it fairly, kind of like splitting a pizza with people you didn't invite to dinner. Then you've got states out west, places like Oregon, Washington, Utah, and Colorado, that use something called prior appropriation. This one is wild when you actually think about what it means. Under prior appropriation, water is treated as public property controlled by the state. You don't own the water. You only get the right to use a certain amount of it, and that right goes to whoever started using it first. First in time, first in right. If someone else was pulling water from that source before you moved in, they have priority over you, even if the well is sitting on your own property. Think about that for a second. Your land, your house, your name on the deed, and the water underneath it can legally belong to the state, with your right to use it ranked behind someone else's claim that existed before you even bought the place. This is where the video gets into the part that really changes how people see this issue. It's not just about digging a new well. It's about what happens to the well you already have. There's a term for this, and it's called mandatory hookup. This is when a state, a city, or a local water authority requires homeowners to connect to the public water line and disconnect from their private well, or simply denies them the right to drill one in the first place. And the outcome is always the same. People end up forced to shut down a well that works and pay, out of their own pocket, to hook up to a public water system instead. According to research on this issue, 20 state legislatures, including the District of Columbia, mandate connection to public water lines. Only 2 states, Missouri and New Hampshire, actually have laws that protect a homeowner's right to keep a private well, and even then, only under certain conditions. 10 more states have court decisions on the books that require connection to public lines. Courts have consistently upheld these state-level laws, though some local ordinances have been struck down for going too far. So picture this. You've got a well on your property. It's been tested. The water is clean. It costs you nothing to run beyond basic maintenance. And then a public water line gets extended to your area. In a lot of states, that's the moment the local government can legally require you to disconnect your well and start paying for city water instead, whether you want to or not. There's an actual example of this playing out. In one South Carolina county, property owners were sent letters telling them public water was now available and that they had 180 days to connect, based on a mandatory hookup ordinance passed years earlier. Each property owner would have had to pay $2,500 just for the connection. The county eventually reversed the mandatory part after pushback, but the ordinance existed, it was enforced, and letters went out demanding compliance. Now here's a real question worth sitting with. Why would a government force someone off a perfectly good well and onto a system that costs them money every single month? The answer isn't some wild secret conspiracy. But there is a financial piece to this that's worth being honest about. When mandatory connection isn't legally possible, some municipalities can still charge what's called an availability fee, a payment tied directly to the fact that public water access exists near your property, whether you use it or not. That means local governments have a real financial incentive tied to how many properties are connected to their system, since more connections and more fees mean more steady revenue. At the same time, it's not fair to pretend this is only about money. There's a legitimate side to this too. Some of these rules exist because of real water quality and safety concerns. A study using thousands of private wells found that water pumped from about 1 in 5 of them contained at least one contaminant above the level considered safe for human health. Since there's no requirement to routinely test private well water, plenty of people are drinking from a well for years without knowing there could be a problem. So when a state pushes for people to connect to a monitored public system, there's a real public health argument behind it, even if it's not the whole story. This is where we get to the part of the story that's happening right now, not decades ago. California is dealing with one of the most serious groundwater situations in the country. Years of overpumping have caused water tables to drop, and in some areas, the ground itself has actually started sinking, a process called subsidence. In response, California passed the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, which set up local agencies across the state responsible for managing groundwater basins and getting them to a sustainable level by deadlines set for 2040 or 2042, depending on the basin. During a drought emergency in 2022, the governor issued executive orders that made it harder to get approval for a new well or to modify an existing one in basins covered under this law. Local agencies now have to confirm, in writing, that a new well won't interfere with the area's sustainability goals or with nearby wells before a permit can even be issued. Some regions in California have also started charging registration fees and extraction fees just for having a well on your property. This isn't a rumor or an exaggeration. It's an active, ongoing legal and regulatory situation, with lawsuits currently working through California courts over how far these agencies are allowed to go. So on one side, you've got a real crisis, dropping water tables, sinking ground, and a genuine need to manage a shared resource before it runs out. On the other side, you've got homeowners who feel like they're being told they can't use water that's sitting right under their own home, water that used to be treated as a basic right that came with owning land. Not every state is moving in the same direction, though, and that's an important part of this story. North Carolina actually passed a law that pushes back against mandatory hookup. As of August 2016, local governments in North Carolina are limited in when they can force a property to connect to a public water system. If your property is undeveloped, the local government has to issue you a well permit, even if a public utility could technically serve you. If your property is already developed, they still have to issue the permit as long as the utility hasn't already run water lines directly to your property. So while a lot of states are tightening control, a few are actually moving to protect a homeowner's right to their own water. This is really the core of the whole issue. There is no single national answer to whether you're allowed to dig your own well or keep the one you already have. It depends entirely on which state you live in, which county you're in, which water doctrine applies there, and whether a public line happens to run near your property. Two people living an hour apart in two different states can have completely different rights over water sitting the exact same distance underground. And that's honestly the most unsettling part of all this. Most people never think about any of this until it directly affects them. You don't think about who owns the water under your land until you try to dig a well and get denied a permit. You don't think about mandatory hookup laws until a letter shows up telling you that you have 180 days to disconnect. You don't think about groundwater sustainability rules until you find out your neighbor got approved for a well years ago and you can't get one now because the aquifer is considered overdrafted. So where does that leave things? The honest answer is that water rights in America are far more complicated and far more restricted than most people realize. It's not one law. It's a mix of state permitting systems, licensing requirements, competing legal doctrines about who actually owns groundwater, mandatory connection laws in 20 states, real financial incentives for local governments, and, in places like California, an active regulatory response to a genuine water crisis. Some of it is about protecting public health. Some of it is about protecting a shrinking resource. And some of it, if we're being honest, comes down to revenue and control. All three of those things exist at the same time, tangled together, and depending on where you live, one of them is probably going to end up affecting you directly. If you want to go deeper into how this plays out state by state, or you're trying to figure out where your own state stands on any of this, check the description. There's more on this down there.